What if I told you that every loan, credit agreement, or contract you signed without full understanding didn't just bind you legally, but it trapped you spiritually? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down why true contracts require conscious consent, how most agreements are spiritual traps disguised as paperwork, and what you can do to break free. Now, we've talked about this on the channel and how debt is spiritual. We've talked about the aspect of debt being a modern form of slavery. And before we dive into that, I've studied contract law, commercial codes, and natural law, and I'm here to show you how to stop spiritually binding yourself to debts and agreements that were never fully yours to begin with. Now, before we dive into this, make sure you like, make sure to subscribe, turn on the post notifications. If you like this video, this right here is going to be able to get pushed on the algorithm, because what we're going to be talking about is something that everyone should know and something that nobody is talking about. And that is exactly why we get stuck in these cycles today. Okay. Also, watch this video all the way to the end. Okay. Because we're going to be talking about and doing a deep dive on something that can absolutely change your mindset, change your life, if you follow the directions and understand and understand what I'm saying. So the whole point of this is to break free from the matrix. You dig me? And yes, the matrix, whatever you want to call it, this, a firmament, whatever the case may be, but it's the mental barrier that is on your mind that keeps you from thinking for yourself. Okay? So let's dive straight in. Don't want to spend too much time on the intro. Let's get it. Okay, this is not legal advice. This is not financial advice. Do your due diligence. Okay, and I want you to listen with your spirit and not just your ears. Okay, because that's what's actually, taking a toll on you in this economic system. Now, let's break down the fact that consent isn't real without awareness. Okay, true consent equals full knowledge plus free will. Okay, understanding that you must have full disclosure of something, and you have to, under your own will, voluntarily consent or agree to something. Okay, so if you don't know all the terms or you're pressured into signing, your consent isn't real. So then we dive into the aspect of the agreements that we signed, the loan agreements, not fully understanding what it is about, because if you fully understood what it was about, then you wouldn't agree to just pay your debts back. You dig me? So spiritually and legally, contracts built on deception are traps, not agreements. Even when you go to the aspect of your student loan is actually a trap. Okay? We'll come back to that. Here's a spiritual principle. Ignorance is not consent. Silence under deception is not agreement. Okay? One more time. Ignorance is not consent. Silence under deception is not agreement. Okay? So before we dive into everything that we're about to talk about right now, you are in a spiritual trap. So when you're in this situation where you feel like you have to pay back debt, or when you feel like you cannot move forward in life because of these debt contracts, the whole purpose of this channel is to break that barrier. Okay? Understand that once you understand the information, you're able to free yourself from these traps. Okay? So here's how financial contracts trap your energy. When you sign a loan without knowing, your signature creates the credit, the lender risks nothing, and your payments actually enslave you to a system you didn't consciously accept. Okay? So signing that loan and not knowing that you actually funded the loan, not knowing that they didn't risk anything, not knowing that they didn't loan you anything, but they'll always fight the fact that you agreed to pay back a loan. But what if they didn't loan you anything? What if they didn't risk any of their money? What if you didn't actually borrow money from them? What if they just created it on the premise of your signature? Do you think you would have just agreed to pay something back with interest? And most of the times we pay 20% more interest on the money that they say that we owe. But what if you didn't actually owe anything? Would you just consciously accept that agreement? Would you just constantly accept repaying something that you created? It doesn't make sense. And then to you, you may say, well, it doesn't make sense. Why do they do this then? Why do they say that they owe us, or that we owe them, or that we borrow money if that is not the case? Okay. Well, when you pay back your loans, okay, or when you are locked in some type of payment plan, understand that you give away your energy, attention, and labor based on incomplete disclosure. So what happens is when you agree blindly, you surrender more than money. You surrender authority over your own life. So think about it. Why do we go to work? We go to work to pay our bills, or at least that's what you think. I know you've heard the term that life is not just about going to work and paying bills. It's much more than that. But you can't look past or much further than paying your bills, because you are locked or trapped in paying your bills. Okay? Now, again, there's nothing wrong with paying your bills, keeping relationships, using the credit system, right? Paying back debts, things in that nature. If you're going to pay back a debt, I'll put it to you like this. Try to pay it back as fast as you can with the least amount of interest, especially if you don't want to go through the whole debt discharge and consumer law process. Okay? If you have good relationships, keep them up. Okay? But ultimately, try on those debts, those smaller debts, right? Those smaller debts, if you're able to perform on those debts, you can perform on those bigger debts, but don't do it and put yourself in a disadvantageous position, if that's a word, and mess your credit up. And then now you are 1 or 2 years behind on a debt, and now you're more last minute for these things. You can't apply for things in that nature. Get everything that you need first, and then exercise the things that I talk about. But the whole point is your job requires energy, attention, and labor. Okay? And if you knew that there was other ways to perform on your contracts, you wouldn't be spending all of your money that you work for, that you give your energy, attention, and labor towards, on your debt. Okay? The whole premise of everything that I talk about is so that you can have full sovereignty over your life, not just by screaming it at somebody and saying I'm sovereign, and they're just going to say, you know what, you're right, you're sovereign. So we're not going to have you agree to contracts that give up your authority. So you already have the authority. You only give it away when you contract to something you didn't fully know and understand. This is why it's important to talk about these laws, so that we know and understand these, and we don't just consciously consent to an agreement we don't know. I'm here to really give you the real truth in a real game, so that you don't really fall for this trap anymore. Okay? Now, let's just talk about the legal side that supports this too. Okay? When we look up the aspect of contract law, okay, because when we're dealing with debts, we're dealing with contracts. You dig me? It's not just about, a tender of payment, and I'm going to send in this coupon, and are they going to follow directions, and this, that, and the third. If you know contracts, then you can overcome any debts. You can overcome any contract. You dig me? I got to grit my teeth, because it's a contract battle. It's not about you paying a debt. Okay, if at the end of the day they put on at the end of the day they don't send you a letter saying it's discharged, that doesn't matter. It doesn't. You dig me? What matters is that they stop trying to get you to pay on a contract you never fully consented to. So here's the contract law fundamentals, okay? Contract, and this is just on Google. I typed this in on Google. You should type it in too. You dig me? Write this down. You know what I mean? If you watch this video and then you come to my DMs and ask me the same questions, or you ask me a question that's very minuscule to the premise of your argument, such as, am I putting this coupon together right? You don't understand contract law, which is why you shouldn't do it. Okay, so here we go. Let's break down contract law. Okay, contract law fundamentals revolve around the principles needed for a legally binding contract. Key elements include offer, acceptance, consideration, and the intention to create legal relations. You dig me? These elements ensure a contract is enforceable in courts, and if one party fails to uphold their obligations, they cannot enforce it. So, boom, here we go. If it doesn't meet these criteria, I don't care if you put the coupon together right or wrong, okay? Part of the disclosures that you should get in regards to a contract is how to perform. Dig me? If you didn't know how to perform, then boom, that's something that could be brought up in court. So boom, if you did something incorrectly, they should move with honor and tell you how to do it correctly. It's very simple. Okay, they want it to be complicated to you so that you don't exercise. So let's dive straight into it. Number one, we're going to dive into the aspect of just an offer. One party makes a clear, definite proposal to the other party outlining the terms of the agreement. That could be as simple as you getting a pre-qualification offer. That could be as simple as you sending a conditional acceptance offer saying, I offer to agree if you can prove X, Y, and Z. So even when you send a conditional acceptance, it becomes an offer. Number two, acceptance. The offeree must unambiguously agree to the offer's terms without any changes or counter offers. Okay? It should be an acceptance or refusal when it comes to a contract. Okay? That person must accept it before it becomes a contract. Now, if they decide to refuse it, then there is no contract. Okay? Number three, consideration. A valuable exchange must occur between the parties. This could be money, goods, services, or a promise to do something. You dig me? Understand that a consideration in the eyes of contract law is also a promise to do something. You dig me? Number four, intention to create legal relations. The parties must genuinely intend to be bound by the terms of the agreement. Here's an important one, capacity. All parties must have legal capacity to enter the contract, which means that they are of legal age and have mental capacity to understand the terms. You dig me? How many times have we gotten terms to an agreement and we didn't even understand it? Okay? We are understanding these things now. And if you're just now understanding these things now, just don't understand whatever contract you've gotten into prior to watching this video, you didn't have legal capacity. Even after you watch this video, if you don't go and research these terms on your own, you still won't have legal capacity. So I would get to legal capacity first and then challenge them. You dig me? So let's go to the legality. The purpose of the contract must be legal and not against public policy. Okay? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Certainty. The terms of the contract must be clear and definite enough for a court to understand and enforce. Number eight, a meeting of the minds. Both parties must understand and agree to the same terms of the agreement. Now, here's a very key thing about meeting of the minds. You can't meet minds with a dead entity. If you're a natural living, breathing person, how can you meet minds with a dead entity? Okay? Mutual assent. This involves an offer and acceptance, assuring both parties agree to the contract's terms. If I don't know all the terms and you didn't disclose any and everything about this specific contract, how can I have met your mind and how can I have mutually accepted the contract's terms if I don't know anything? 10, terms of the contract. The agreement should clearly define rights, responsibilities, and obligations of each party. Part of those obligations when it comes to debt contracts is the full disclosure, okay? Is a lawful consideration. Is to make sure that all these contract law fundamentals are put in place. Dispute resolution, a clause outlining how disputes will be resolved, such as through mediation or arbitration, is often included. Governing law and jurisdiction. And there's so many more aspects to contract law that if the contract do not meet these requirements, it is not enforceable. It is not valid. You dig me? So if these elements are missing, the contract is voidable in law and void in spirit. So let's first get to the aspect of us. When you understand that it's voidable by law, then it makes it easier to void it by spirit. But understand that you must void it by your spirit first before you actually exercise it. See, I can tell you this and you'll say, well, yes, it is voidable by law. But if you don't believe it, if you don't take yourself out of this enslavement of what you was indoctrinated and what you have taught by those opposing powers, and I say opposing because they're not for you, then you won't even take action on the information I tell you. Okay? You have to get out of this enslavement in your spirit and believing what those powers are telling you. Okay? So void it in your spirit and you'll be able to look beyond, or you'll be able to believe the stuff that I'm telling you right now. Okay? Or other way around. If you're a person who has to see it and know the law in order to avoid it in the spirit. Either way, whatever the case may be, some of us are just, in the spot of voiding in spirit, and that's good, but we don't know the actual law. So this is the point of the video. And then some of us need to see the law before they can void it in their spirit. Whatever the case may be, if it doesn't meet those terms, guess what? It's not enforceable. Okay. So, and here's the governing law that kind of backs it up. Okay. 15 USC 1601. Very, very simple. This is the Truth in Lending Act. The Truth in Lending Act breaks down this right here. Okay, this is the congressional findings. Congress has found something about lending and declared the purpose of this subchapter. All right, so right on the bat, you know what I mean? It says that Congress finds that economic stabilization will be enhanced and the competition among various financial institutions and other firms engaged in the extension of consumer credit must be strengthened by the informed use of credit. For those of you guys who don't know what the informed use of credit is, the informed use of credit is exactly what it says. Any and everything about that credit, you should be properly informed. The informed use of credit results from an awareness of the cost thereof by the consumers. It is the purpose of this subchapter to assure a meaningful disclosure of credit terms so that the consumer will be able to compare more readily to the various credit terms available to him and avoid the uninformed use of credit, and to protect the consumer against inaccurate, unfair credit billing and credit card practices. So the whole aspect of this subchapter is to protect one of non-disclosure, lack of disclosure. To protect one against inaccurate and unfair credit billing and credit card practices, because part of the unfair credit billing and credit card practices is having you pay something that you don't need to pay. Part of that is the aspect of charging interest on something that you created. Part of that is to make sure that you have a full disclosure. Then we dive into UCC 3-305, where you have defenses on the aspect if they do not follow these fundamentals of not only contract law, but under the Truth in Lending Act. All of this is constitutional. All of this is in the Constitution. Yes, you can look up contract law, and there's many pieces of documentation on the legal side that'll break down contract law, okay? But this is the Constitution. This is what Congress actually wrote. So Congress is going by the same contract law fundamentals. Dig me? So then we dive into the laws and natural law agree. So deception avoids agreement. So contract law is the natural law, and the actual law, which is the Constitution, are very much on the same page. Okay? Why? Because they're not above natural law. Okay? So you cannot be deceptive in your contracts, and if you are, that easily makes that contract null and void. Okay, then we dive into recognizing and breaking spiritual contracts. Okay, recognizing contracts you've never consciously agreed to, blind loan signings. Okay, credit card pre-approvals. You dig me? Terms buried in fine print. Part of the terms buried in fine print is what? That's how the loan was funded, how you can perform and not just pay, the finance charge, and how that's the sum of all charges. Okay. And this is how you would break those spiritual contracts. Number one, you would declare your non-consent. Okay. Hey, I never consented. Okay. I signed this blindly. You induced me using fraud. Okay. Or you fraudulently induced me, persuaded me into signing something. You want to challenge the validity in law using affidavits and conditional acceptance, saying, hey, look, I will agree if you can prove X, Y, and Z, and moving in truth and awareness, moving forward. All right. The reason why we get stuck in this trap is because we don't want to be aware. We don't want to know the truth. It's like red pill, blue pill. OK, are you going to continue to keep taking the blue pill? You're going to take the red pill. You know what I mean? So here's a spiritual power move. Speak aloud. I revoke all agreements made in ignorance, fear, or deception. I revoke all agreements made in ignorance, fear, or deception. And if you speak that truth, if you speak that aloud, then you start to move in that energy. You'll start to manifest that energy. Okay? You have a right to rescind agreements made without full understanding, both legally and energetically. So it doesn't matter if you don't know the coupon method. It don't matter if you don't know the 1099, this, that, and the third. I mean, all of that, it does help. But if you just understand the aspect of contract law, you understand that you made agreements in fear, ignorance, or deception, you can overcome any contract, no matter what discharge method you use. So this is how you're going to protect yourself moving forward. You're going to read everything, okay? Not only the contract, but you're going to read the laws behind the contract. Dig me? You're going to ask those uncomfortable questions like, how is this funded? Where is the value? Is there a lawful consideration? Okay? Did you fully disclose all the terms to me? You want to demand disclosure before agreement. You want to make sure you have all the disclosures, but you have to be aware of what disclosures are entitled to you. You want to reserve your rights under UCC 1-308. Okay, simple signature, put in UCC 1-308 while you sign or with your contract can also help you. But I will highlight, I'm not going to tell you to just put UCC 3-308 and reserve your rights, because sometimes banks will then reject your funding or whatever the case may be, or send the contract back. But once the contract is signed, once they have the promissory note, then the contract is already, it's already happened, okay? So at the end of the day, if they try to rescind your contract, I mean, they don't really have the power to rescind your contract, okay? So, and I'm only talking about the aspect of if you sign a loan agreement and you decide to put that there and they decide to reject you for that very reason, then yes, you can take them to court. But know and understand your argument before you do that, okay? Shift the burden of proof onto them. Use your signature consciously as an extension of your authority. If you know that your signature is what the authority is, then you will understand your power. If you knew your signature was creating the credit, if you knew your signature was giving them an opportunity and not you an opportunity, then you would move differently. See, your energy is sacred. Your signature is sacred, and don't give it away without honor. If you give it away, you have to make sure that whoever you're giving it to is going to move with honor. If they don't, bite them in the ass for it. Pause. You dig me? So every time you sign something without awareness, you are at risk of trapping your energy into a system designed to harvest it. Conscious consent isn't optional. It is your spiritual armor. It is your spiritual rights. You dig me? No more moving without awareness. No more moving without the truth. It is up to you and your spirit, and it's your duty to make sure that everything is moving within your conscious, and you're consciously aware of the things that you are doing. Not only just, okay, damn, Nicholas really motivated me, but it's beyond motivation. You have to have discipline to learn these things so that you can actually do it for your spirit. Your spirit is going to constantly be trapped if you keep on moving based off of what other people tell you. Go find it out for yourself. Go learn it for yourself. Ask those questions. You know what I mean? If you're going to ask those questions, nobody's going to treat you they're going to treat you differently. Okay? They're going to treat you differently if you ask those questions. They're going to treat you differently if you create a negotiable instrument and try to enforce the negotiable instrument. They're going to treat you differently. And that's the true sovereignty. That's the true freedom. Okay? Not being treated like everyone else. Okay? Obviously, positively. We want to move in a positive nature. You are a king. You are a queen. Dig me? You are a spiritual authority. Move in that energy. Don't let just anybody take away your energy, time, and attention. Use it wisely. And if you feel like, oh man, I'm using all my time, labor, and attention to work this job to pay this debt, then maybe you need to stop paying that debt. And I'm not telling you to do that. It's not legal advice. It's not financial advice. Pay your debts if you don't understand, or you don't understand, or you're still spiritually trapped. Right now, you hear what I say and you say, damn, well, I can't do that. My wife is going to be upset. You're still spiritually trapped, but that's okay. That's the whole point. Just keep watching my videos, turn on the post notifications, subscribe to the channel. You dig me? Because I post Monday through Friday. Okay? I actually enjoy posting. You know what I mean? And giving the information and game. But don't take this for granted. Okay? Don't take this for granted. All right? I do this so that people can fully understand this and move within their purpose. But I've noticed a lot of people watch my videos and they come in my DMs and ask me the same question. Okay? So don't only subscribe to me, but go check out my Instagram at BizNick. Okay? And get updates every time I post a new video. Join the Instagram channel when you get to my page, because I do drop the link in there every time I post a video. So not only that, turn on the post notifications, but also join the broadcast channel. So when I do post a video, you get it. And join the premiere. I post every day, 8:30 p.m., sometimes 7:30. Dig me? And it will be premiered. So turn on that post notification so that you can get an update every time I post a video. Number 3. Okay? Well, not number 3. If you want to learn more about debt discharge, if you want to get more of a deep dive, okay? If you want to get all my teachings for all these years and all my studies, if you want to get the resources and templates such as the conditional acceptance, the affidavit of truths, understanding how to debt discharge in paper form and things of that nature, go ahead and grab the complete debt guide, okay? This price is going to go up. So if I were you, I would get the complete debt guide right now before the value goes up. Okay. Number 2, if you want to work with me one-on-one, this is specific for people who want to fix their credit, get funding, and elevate their business. If you're an entrepreneur, tap into that one-on-one mentorship. If you need more clarity and understanding about debt discharge, tap into the one-on-one mentorship. This is a mentorship. So no, I'm not going to be sitting there writing letters for you. I'm going to be mentoring you and coaching you and helping you understand this so that you can have the same level of understanding that I have. Don't think that you're going to get on the phone with me and I'm going to do some work for you. And don't join or don't reach out, hop on this one-on-one call, and then ask me 1,000,001 questions. If you want to ask me 1,000,001 questions about your specific situation and you're not looking for a mentor, my coaching call link will be down below. Okay? Pay for 45 to an hour of my time and I can answer any question that you have. Okay? But make sure you come prepared. Make sure you take notes. Because if you watch my videos all the way through, you really shouldn't have that many questions. But if you do, pay for my time. Okay? And lastly, follow me on Instagram at biz.nick. Have you ever signed something that you later regretted? Drop your experience down in the comment section below. Remember to like, subscribe, turn on the post notification, because your power starts with conscious choices, and it's time to make conscious choices. If you got all the way to the end, comment the word discharge, and I'll see you in the next one.